I'm a global citizen as it goes. Yeah, this is good. Yeah. I was born in Germany, and then the beginning. No, we met on a scout event.
The arrival of the Honorable Governor Shri. There's a lot of seats here, so those people who are standing at the back can come up in between their seats. Honorable Governor Shri of Gujarat has just arrived. I would request you to please stand when he comes in. Thank you. Thank you. We begin with the invocation.
जय जय गणपति भक्तन हितकारी जय जय गणपति भक्तन हितकारी भवानी नंदन सब दुख भंजन भवानी नंदन सब दुख भंजन पूर्ण करता कारज सारे पूर्ण करता कारज सारे जय जय गणपति भक्तन हितकारी जय जय गणपति भक्तन हितकारी विघ्न विनाशक शुभ फलदायक विघ्न विनाशक शुभ फलदायक मंगल मूर्ति अष्ट विनायक मंगल मूर्ति अष्ट विनायक जय जय गणपति भक्तन हितकारी जय जय गणपति भक्तन हितकारी सब सुख करता हर दुख हरता सब सुख करता हर दुख हरता बुद्धि विधाता मंगल करता बुद्धि विधाता मंगल करता जय जय गणपति भक्तन हितकारी जय जय गणपति भक्तन हितकारी हे गणनायक सिद्धि विनायक हे गणनायक सिद्धि विनायक भक्त जनों के तुम हो सहायक भक्त जनों के तुम हो सहायक जय 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 गणपति भक्तन हितकारी जय 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 गणपति भक्तन हितकारी भवानी नंदन सब दुख भंजन भवानी नंदन सब दुख भंजन पूर्ण करता कारज सारे पूर्ण करता कारज सारे जय 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 गणपति भक्तन हितकारी जय 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 गणपति भक्तन हितकारी ओम गम गणपतये नमः ओम गम गणपतये नमः ओम गम गणपतये नमः ओम गम गणपतये नमः
Very good morning, Namaskar. On behalf of the Center for Environment Education, I welcome you all to the International Conference on Education as a Driver for Sustainable Development Goals. The conference is expected to explore and recommend where education will play a significant role in achieving the SDGs. Before we begin, at CE, we would like to extend a non-traditional welcome to our guests by offering a book instead of a bouquet. So I would request Sri Sushil Kumar ji to kindly welcome Sri O.P. Kohli, Honorable Governor Shri of Gujarat, with a book on behalf of the Ministry of Environment and Forest. May I request my colleagues to also please welcome the other guests on the dais. Mr. Mahesh Pradhan, Mr. Ashok Khosla, Sri Sushil Kumar ji, Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai, Mr. Alexander Licht. Thank you. Of Center for Environment Education. CE is a center of excellence under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Mr. Sarabhai is UNESCO Chair for ESD and Human Habitat, set up at CE in partnership with CEPT University and supported by ICLE and SWED DESD. He is co-chair of the Global Working Group on Global Citizenship Education, convened by the Brookings Institute, Washington, D.C. He has been a member of the Indian delegation to the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development at Rio 1992 and the World Summit of Sustainable Development at Johannesburg 2002. He was awarded the Padma Shri in 2012. I invite Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai to deliver the welcome address and provide a background to the conference.
Thank you very much, Padma. Honorable Governor Shri of Gujarat, Shri O.P. Kohli, Shri Sushil Kumar ji, Special Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Dr. Ashok Khosla, Mahesh Pradhan, Alexander Licht, and friends. It's wonderful to have several of you back here and new faces, a lot of youth delegates here today. It was almost 10 years ago, in 2005, again in the month of January, when many of us had gathered here, just as the decade of education for sustainable development had first been declared. We met over a few days, and I think we came out with what was called the Ahmedabad Declaration. And the Ahmedabad Declaration at that time stands even today as a beacon of inspiration as to where that decade went. Just to read a line from that, it said that ESD, Education for Sustainable Development, must start with examining our own lifestyles and our willingness to model and advance sustainability in our communities. We pledge to share our diverse experiences and collective knowledge to refine the vision of sustainability while continually expanding its practice. Through our actions, we will add substance and vigor to the UNDEST process. And that's, in a sense, what happened. Many of us got together, perhaps for the first time at that 10 years ago, but then have worked continuously together, networking amongst people, establishing, exploring the possibilities of how education can have an impact on sustainable development. But then came Rio Plus 20. In 2012, the Rio Plus 20 process had just seen the MDGs were nearly coming to an end in 2015. And what happens after that? And that's when the whole concept of developing sustainable development goals was proposed. An open working group at the United Nations worked closely with it. We were fortunate through the ministry to play a role in working with our delegates there. And finally, in September of 2015, the Sustainable Development Goals got defined. So you see two processes coming together, the decade of education for sustainable development, looking at education and what it does, and then the definition of the Sustainable Development Goal. And then, of course, we had Paris, and we had the climate change COP, came out with a climate agreement, every country giving its INDC what it was planning to do. So we felt that this was an opportune moment to gather our thoughts, and if the community which is concerned with education as a driver could come up with recommendations and come up with suggestions, just as people are starting to plan that actions for sustainable development, actions for INDC, we would make a much bigger contribution than coming later when people's plans are already in place. And I think that's what this conference is about. We hope to come out with an outcome document, sir, and the outcome document would have 5 components in it. It would firstly examine where education can play a critical role. It would look at good practice around the world and see how it can inspire. It would look at institutional mechanisms, whether they are already in place or new needs to be created or strengthened. It would look at specific recommendations to different stakeholders, whether they are governments or NGOs or universities or other groups. And finally, it would look at the way you would measure, and you would look at the outcome and see how it is. So we are looking forward to an exciting conference. And again, let me on my behalf thank Governor Shri for accepting our invitation and being with us to bless this conference. Thank you very much.
United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, is a partner to this conference. Alexander Light is the Chief of Education for Sustainable Development and Global Citizenship Section at the UNESCO. He is UNESCO in coordination with the Global Action Plan on ESD. He is coordinating the Global Action Plan on ESD, which is a follow-up to the Decade on Education for Sustainable Development. Before joining UNESCO Paris, he was in charge of ESD at the German Commission of UNESCO. I would like to invite Mr. Alexander Light to please say a few words.
Shri Kohli, Honorable Governor of Gujarat, Sushil Kumar, Special Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Dr. Khosla, Mr. Sarabhai, Mr. Pradhan. UNESCO is very pleased to partner in the organization of this important conference on education as a driver for sustainable development goals. The conference comes at an important moment, just after the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals last year, and it addresses a key aspect, the capacities people need to implement the SDGs. UNESCO has closely collaborated with CEE and many other partners present here today over the years as the lead agency for education for sustainable development during the UN Decade on ESD and now for the Global Action Program on ESD. To express UNESCO's support for the conference at the highest level, I have the honor to introduce a video message by the Director General of UNESCO, Ms. Irina Bokova. We'll see the video message on the screen here in a moment. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank every participant of the International Conference on Education as a driver for sustainable development goals. I'm grateful to the Government of India for its leadership, along with the Center for Environment Education and the United Nations Environment Programme. The new 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development charts a new course for people, for peace, for the planet, for the next 15 years. Taking this forward requires new ways of thinking and interacting with others and the world. And this is why education must be our starting point to shape new values and behaviors for the century ahead. This is the importance of UNESCO's Global Action Program on Education for Sustainable Development, building on the results of the International Decade to accelerate progress across all of the Sustainable Development Goals. To move forward, we need new ideas and a renewed engagement for positive change from everyone. These goals guide the work of the Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development under the auspices of UNESCO. I know this is the inspiration underpinning this international conference, And I thank each of you again for your commitment to advancing the goals we share. I wish you fruitful discussions and look forward to their conclusions.
The United Nations Environment Programme is also a partner in this conference. Mr. Mahesh Pradhan is Chief Environmental Education and Training Unit, Division of Environmental Policy at the United Nations Environment Programme. Mr. Pradhan oversees the division's implementation of the UNEP's mission to provide leadership and encourage partnerships. He has been instrumental in designing the Global Universities Partnership on Environment and Sustainability, which has currently nearly 800 universities. May I request Mr. Pradhan to please say a few words?
Thank you very much, Honorable Governor Shri, my colleagues on the dais, nearly 700 participants for this conference, and including many youth and our very young students. Yeah? Very warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be back here at CE and for this first international conference on the SDGs, but education as a driver for SDGs. SDGs is very recent in the fact that implementation has just started from the 1st of Jan this year, this month. And including, it's been nice to be back in CE, as Kartikeya mentioned. The weather is amazing, and the Sabarmati festival, the kite festival, I think. So we're very lucky to be here at this time. We have a video message from UNEP's Deputy Executive Director, which will be on shortly, but I'd like to also convey the apologies from the President of the United Nations Environment Assembly, Madam Oyun Sanjasuren from Mongolia. She was very much looking forward to joining you this morning, but due to family emergencies, she's back in Mongolia. We will have her written statement on the conference website for you to have a look. Just to mention that the United Nations Environment Assembly, UNIA, was established as a follow-up to the Rio +20 process. The second meeting of UNIA will take place in Nairobi in May this year. This is to elevate the Governing Council of UNEP to universal membership. And Mongolia, in fact, has proposed a resolution on investing on human capacity through environmental education and training. So ladies and gentlemen, the video from our Deputy Executive Director, Mr. Ibrahim Theo.
That was a video message from Mr. Ibrahim Theo, UNEP Deputy Executive Director. Sri Sushil Kumar is Special Secretary, Government of India in the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. He is a member of the 1982 batch of the Indian Administrative Service and has over 32 years of experience in key positions in various departments of the government. He has been involved in government policy in different departments like the Water Resource and Irrigation Department, Rural Development, Urban Development, Poverty Alleviation, to name a few. He presently holds a strategic position in the Government of India's Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change Department and guides the climate change policy for India. May I invite Sri Sushil Kumarji to kindly say a few words.
Honorable Governor Shri of Gujarat, distinguished colleagues on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all welcome you to this event, which will happen for 3 days on behalf of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. When Dr. Kartikeya Sarabhai spoke to me and invited me for this conference, I very readily accepted it because, as you have already heard, this is probably the first such brainstorming session which we will have on implementing what we achieved in the year 2015. 2015 was a watershed year, I would feel, especially in the field of environment. the MDGs were replaced by SDGs, and the Kyoto Protocol was replaced by the Paris Agreement. Now both these events are extremely significant and can alter the future course the globe takes. I hope that it does, because it's very closely linked with our future and the future of our children. And in that context, sessions like this acquire great importance. On the climate change front, we are going to meet for the first time in the month of May to discuss among the group of countries as to how to interpret the agreement for implementation post 2020 and how to go forward beyond 2020 up to 2100. Before that, if such events take place in all countries and in all provinces or states of those countries, I'm sure it will feed into the knowledge pool that the country delegations will bring to Bonn for discussions on climate change. Similarly, on the Sustainable Development Goals, on other ones, climate change is just one, which is goal number 13. But that's also like education, a very cross-cutting theme in the SDGs. So education is one cross-cutting theme, climate change is another cross-cutting theme, and obviously at the core of all this is the concept of sustainability. I would like to convey to you that we in Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change have found educating even the ministry is quite difficult as far as these SDGs are concerned. The process of evolving the SDGs was a very prolonged process. When we interacted with ministries, and CE was helping us in that, and they were spearheading the effort, the concept of sustainability has to actually sink in policymakers, in the people who implement the policies, and in people at large. If I were to divide the whole system into three parts: people who make policies, people who implement policies, and people who have to live with those policies. So governments generally handle the first two aspects of that, and first two parts of this system. The third part, where the major work lies, is something where a combined effort of government system and non-governmental system has to happen. So when I'm just trying to convey to you that if we found this concept so difficult to be imbibed by the policymakers and the implementers, the concept to be imbibed by the people at large is going to be a much more difficult process. It's going to be a much prolonged process and would require a much prolonged action by all concerned. And that's where, if a clear roadmap emerges from sessions like this, it is going to be extremely helpful. Because this is I'm told that this is a mix of national and international youth and experience state and non-state actors. All of you are present here. So such sessions have the ability to transcend beyond boundaries of time, of age, of thought. So I really look forward to the outcome document which Kartikeya talked about. And we would like that more such sessions are held in different states. I'm told that the state representatives are also here. So if such sessions are held in the states and such sessions are also held by different ministries, that's really going to be of use for Government of India and all our state governments. As far as the Sustainable Development Goals are concerned, the role of our ministry in a way is over, because now we have these 17 goals and 169 targets. The government is now grappling with developing the indicators. Now that's a very difficult task, and that's not going to be a standard piece. Each country is going to develop its own, and we are actually grappling with not only the indicators but also the time frames. Whether we can really achieve these in the time frames which are indicated. So that's what the government is doing. But how to bring it into the overall policy making, how to see that actually we achieve as a country all these sustainable goals, is going to be a combined effort of all of us. And I hope that when such sessions take place, they will all deliberate, and the outcome document of each of these, like the one that you are going to produce, is going to be extremely useful for all governments and for all of us. So I just wanted to again convey my best wishes, and I wanted to welcome you to this. I hope that's going to be a useful session for all of you, and we will all go back well educated on how to achieve these SDGs in the time frames that I stipulated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Ashok Khosla is the chairman of the CEE Governing Council. He is founder and was the president of the 35-year-old organization Development Alternatives. Dr. Khosla has served as a member of the National Security Advisory Board, the National Environment Board, and the Science Advisory Council to the Cabinet. He has had many international assignments like Special Advisor, Brundtland Commission, Chair, the 92 NGO Forum at the Earth Summit, and so on. May I invite Dr. Khosla to please address the gathering.
Honorable Governor Shri, friends, colleagues, the previous speakers have covered a great deal of the process by which we came here and by which we need to move forward. The whole issue of the international community worrying about environment, sustainability, the issues of the MDGs leading to the SDGs, the issues of climate change, the issues of how governments and civil society have brought us over the 40-odd years since Stockholm to consider the deeper meaning of life and how we as citizens can take it forward. I thought it would be useful for me really to try and place the whole issue of environmental education in the context of what precisely we mean by sustainability, how that is going to be translated into action on the ground, and how one day we may see that not only is education important for achieving the goals we've set ourselves, not only is education important as an end in itself, as a human right, but how important education is in terms of actually achieving some of the sustainability goals, indirectly and directly. So let me share a few substantive issues. What is sustainability? We know that it has three strands, three legs, if you like, to stand on. The issues of social, the issues of environmental, the issues of economic progress are all embodied in the concept of sustainability. And these basically mean that we need a society to live in that is much more equitable than it is today, much more in harmony with nature, and that meets the basic needs of all. In a sense, in the land of Gandhi, this is precisely what the Mahatma was preaching for the whole first half of the last century. We've not invented anything new. It was there, something that we had all come to believe in, led by a mind and spirit which showed that the world has to be different from the way we are. Even so, after the Mahatma's passing away, the following half century or more have led us into directions that have caused unbelievable harm, not only to people, but to nature and to the future of our planet. What we need to do now is to cause a fundamental change in behavior towards each other, towards nature, and towards the cosmos. And you can't achieve a change in behavior unless you achieve a change in mindsets, in the way we think. And in fact, that can't be done unless we change our value systems. What is it that we believe in? What is our relationship with people, with nature, and with machines, with technology that brought us here? These values have to be very long-term in nature, and they have to be embodied, embedded, if you like, in the values of society. I believe there are 3 or 4 very simple principles which, if we could basically keep in mind, sustainability would be a much easier goal to achieve. The very first, a truly Gandhian principle, is putting the last first, Antodaya. The very lost people on our planet, 3 billion of them, who got left behind. They should be and have to be the first order of priority in whatever we do at the national and international level. The second is parity and fairness. It goes along with the first one. It's about social justice. It's about having a society in which everyone feels that they have some stake and some control over their futures. The third P is polluter pays. The people who cause damage have to be held responsible. They have to be put in a place where they pay the costs of that. And the fourth one is something that we already talked about 40 years ago at Stockholm, the precautionary principle. Don't do something if you don't know what the outcomes are going to be, particularly the negative ones. Minimize risks, maximize benefits. The dimensions of sustainability then become basically the 4 E's: equity, social justice, fairness, environmental health, ecosystem services. You know, the ecosystem provides more value in services, in rupee terms, in dollar terms, than the man-made economy. We have an economy around the world of roughly $70 trillion. Well, there are estimates that nature actually provides twice that much, and we take it for granted. Clean waters, the airs that we breathe, the food systems that we have, the biogeochemical cycles, all of these add up to literally trillions and hundreds of trillions of dollars. The third is the economy, and that means efficiency. Stop the wastage. Enterprise. Basically, make it possible for people to take charge of their lives. But the fourth and the most important one is empowerment. And empowerment comes basically with education, with a belief in one's endogenous, one's own cultural values. That's what this Parampara book is all about. It extols the virtues of our traditions and our culture that we have inherited from generations past. It's not a coincidence that it is the Center for Environmental Education that has come up with this book for the ministry, because education and endogeneity are the very basis of empowerment. So the key questions that we have to ask about how do we get to sustainability are, is the diversity of the social fabric that we have being strengthened? Because it is in diversity, in variety, that lies the strength of our people to face the future. Is the diversity of the natural life support systems being conserved? It was already very strong. Nature gave us, the Creator gave us a natural system which was very resilient. But now today we are losing species at about 100 times the background rate. That's a problem. That's an environmental problem that's as big, if not bigger, in terms of urgency than climate change. We're losing the very basis of our life support systems. And the third is the portfolio of economic choices expanded? Are the livelihoods that our people need in order to look after them becoming available? So on all this knowledge is the central issue. Knowledge about skills, about how to do things, yes. Knowledge about how to live with this world, yes. But a new kind of knowledge. And I think the next 3 days are about considering the following four major issues. Is our knowledge directed at systemic issues, at the root causes? Is it holistic enough for us to be able to connect the dots, to be able basically to understand that the world is so complex that one single sectoral piece of knowledge is not going to solve the problem. One ministry, one department, one discipline is not enough. We have to bring them all together, and that's what was the problem of the Ministry of Environment, trying to get all the other ministries to see that they're all actually deeply linked together. And these interlinkages are really where the action's going to be. So where does that leave us for education? Well, we're going to be considering at different levels, tertiary levels, economics. What are the basic problems of economics that are causing the problems that we are dealing with in our SDGs? Economics, discount rates that don't reflect our value of the future. Engineering, is efficiency enough, or is sufficiency also important? Here's another truly Gandhian concept. Gandhiji was the most dedicated efficiency expert. He believed in zero waste, but he also believed in sufficiency. What is enough? And our education systems are not teaching us, and not even allowing us to think about the second. All we do is actually produce engineers and economists who think that we should get more with less. But what about more with less? And what about less with less? And how much more fulfilling could life be? So let me start to finish the issue of education by saying that if our education does not help us learn to put need above greed, about the ethics of living together on a planet which is finite, then it has achieved not too much. And this has to go all the way down to the secondary and primary value systems. I often am amazed at how much that little country, a neighbor of ours, Bhutan, has done in the way of doing this at the primary level. Whenever I meet a school child in Bhutan, it's amazing how wise this person is. It may be their Buddhist origins, but it may be something else. The whole political system has geared itself to producing the next generation of sustainability experts. Okay, so having said that, it seems to me that the one thing I cannot leave this podium without saying is that the importance of these issues can only be put front and center by a strong civil society. Governments are important. Without governments, we don't have governance. Business is important. Without business, we don't have all the production systems and job creation systems that we want. But civil society, something that we inherited from millennia of voluntarism in a country like India, the US, many other countries, is crucial. And today, around the world, it is under huge threat. Without civil society, governments must understand you cannot have a democracy. And if you don't have a democracy, you can't have participation. If you don't have participation, you don't have sustainability. So it is extremely urgent for us all to give full respect to the need for dissent, for civil society that is strong and active, and sometimes inconvenient, sometimes difficult to handle. But nothing is more important than nurturing it. And all this is important because one major element of sustainability is population growth. If we didn't have 7.5 billion people on this planet, we wouldn't be sitting here talking. If we had half as many, we would all be enjoying a different kind of life. And it is only education, particularly education for women, but education for all, that helps people delay marriage, to have a choice of having smaller families and be able basically to contribute directly to reducing carbon emissions. I have calculated in my research that if you simply spend $4 on a girl's education, you save a ton of carbon emissions. That compares with $250 for carbon capture and sequestration, $50 for planting trees, and $80 for getting superthermal critical power stations. So it's a very good investment to put your money into girls' education for reducing climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok sir. We are honored to have with us here today Shri O.P. Kohli, Honorable Governor Shri of Gujarat. Before I invite him to address the gathering, I would like to request him to kindly inaugurate the conference with the lighting of the lamp. May I please request all the dignitaries on the dais to join. Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Governor Shri of Gujarat has held many important positions in his political career. He has been president of the Delhi Bharatiya Janata Party twice, from 1991 to 95, and then again from 2009 to 2010. He was also the National Secretary of the BJP, and he has been Prabhari of Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Chandigarh, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh and Rajasthan, and has extensive experience in different parts of India. Honorable Governor Shri is a Sahitya Ratna from Prayag and has a Master's in Hindi from University of Delhi. He has been a student activist and a teacher activist. He has also been very active in education, having taught in 2 premier colleges of Delhi. May I invite Shri O.P. Kohli, Honorable Governor Shri, to deliver the inaugural address.
धन्यवाद। श्री कार्तिकेय साराभाई जी, श्री अलेक्जेंडर लीड जी, श्री महेश प्रधान जी, श्री सुशील कुमार जी, डॉक्टर अशोक खोसला जी, यहाँ आए हुए आप सभी विद्वान भाइयों और बहनों, मेरे से पहले कई महानुभावों के वक्तव्य हुए और आज के विषय की और आने वाले 3 दिन में आप जिन मुद्दों पर चर्चा करने वाले हैं उसकी नींव इन भाषणों में जो मुझसे पहले हुए हैं रख दी गई है। मैं बहुत संक्षेप में आपके सामने 2-3 बातों का जिक्र करूंगा। आज हम जिस चिंता के दौर से गुजर रहे हैं वह चिंता है कि हमारा पर्यावरण कैसे बचे। पर्यावरण को बचाने के लिए हमको अपनी जीवन शैली को बदलना होगा। जीवन शैली को बदलने में शिक्षा कोई भूमिका अदा कर सकती है, शिक्षा का कोई रोल हो सकता है। मोटे तौर से सवाल तो यही है। पर्यावरण की रक्षा, एनवायरनमेंट को बचाना, ये हमें अपने लिए ज़रूरी है, अपने को बचाने के लिए। पर्यावरण बचेगा तो हम बचेंगे। इसलिए पर्यावरण को बचाने की चिंता आज हमारी सबसे बड़ी चिंता बनी हुई है। तो इसको बचाएं कैसे? तो जोर दिया जा रहा है कि हम अपनी जीवन शैली को बदलें। कैसी जीवन शैली बनाएं? ऐसी जीवन शैली बनाएं जो हमको पर्यावरण से सिर्फ लेना ही लेना ये नहीं, बल्कि पर्यावरण को देना, इसके लिए तैयार करें। अभी हमारी जीवन शैली कैसी बन गई है? पर्यावरण से लो, खूब लो। पर्यावरण को निचोड़ो, पर्यावरण को निचोड़कर अपने उपभोग के लिए जितना हासिल कर सकते हो कर लो। तो हम तो पर्यावरण के दुश्मन बने हुए हैं। फिर पर्यावरण हमारी फिक्र क्यों करे, हमारी चिंता क्यों करे? तो पहली बात तो ये है कि पर्यावरण और हमारे बीच में अच्छे संबंध जुड़े। यह अच्छे संबंध जोड़ने के लिए हमको अपने दृष्टिकोण को बदलना होगा। भारत की चिंतन परंपरा होलिस्टिक रही है, इंटीग्रल रही है। उसमें किसी को एक्सक्लूड नहीं किया गया, सबको इंक्लूड किया गया है। इंक्लूसिव थिंकिंग, इंक्लूसिव वे ऑफ लाइफ, हर एक को शामिल करना, किसी को बाहर नहीं छोड़ना। और इसलिए मनुष्य सृष्टि से बाहर नहीं है, मनुष्य सृष्टि का अंग है। यह हमारी सोच रही है, इसको हम अपनी चिंतन परंपरा कहते हैं। तो अगर हम सृष्टि का अंग हैं तो सृष्टि के साथ हमारा जुड़ाव कैसा होना चाहिए? हम प्रकृति के प्रति, पर्यावरण के प्रति, पेड़ों के प्रति, जलाशयों के प्रति, नदियों के प्रति, पर्वतों के प्रति, धरती के प्रति, इन सबको हम क्या समझते हैं? ये अगर हमको देते हैं तो हमको कुछ लौटाना है कि नहीं, या केवल लेते रहना है? यह सवाल है। और इसलिए हमारी चिंतन परंपरा में प्रकृति के प्रति एक आदर भाव, इसको उकसाने का, बढ़ाने का प्रयत्न किया गया है। यह इंटीग्रल होलिस्टिक चिंतन, इस पर बेस्ड लाइफस्टाइल इसको हम कैसे वापस लाएं? अगर ऐसा वापस लाना संभव नहीं हुआ तो हम कितनी बड़ी बड़ी बातें कर लें, उसमें से कुछ खास परिणाम निकलेगा नहीं। हमारे यहाँ कहा गया है कि परिवार किसे कहते हैं। आजकल तो ये होने लगा है कि केवल 2 लोग परिवार हैं, पति पत्नी। पहले मानते थे पति पत्नी भी परिवार है, माता पिता, दादा दादी, बच्चे, घर में गाय है, भैंस है, बकरी है, कोई हम पक्षी पालते थे तो वो पक्षी भी, अड़ोस पड़ोस के पेड़ पौधे, वनस्पतियां, ये सब परिवार की कल्पना थी। कोई भी चीज छूटती नहीं थी, संपूर्ण को हम परिवार मानकर चलते थे। और इसीलिए कहा गया वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, ये सारी वसुधा, इस वसुधा में जो कुछ भी आता है, प्रकृति भी आती है, पर्यावरण भी आता है, पर्वत भी आते हैं, नदियां भी आती हैं, पक्षी भी आते हैं, पेड़ पौधे भी आते हैं, सब कुछ ये कुटुंब है। संस्कृत का एक सेइंग है, अयम निजः परो वेत्ति गणना लघु चेतसा, उदार चरिता नाम तु वसुधैव कुटुंबकम। अयम निज, ये मेरा है, मैं। अयम निजः परो वेत्ति, और यह मुझसे अलग पराया है। ये सोच तो छोटे मन की सोच है। उदार चरिता नाम तो वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, उदार चरित्र वाले लोगों के लिए तो ये सारी पृथ्वी ही कुटुंब है। अब ये जो मेरा और पराया, इसको तोड़े बिना हम पर्यावरण की रक्षा के लिए कैसे आगे बढ़ेंगे? अब ये काम कौन करे? इस काम में शिक्षा की बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका है। पर कैसी शिक्षा की? जो शिक्षा हमको केवल कैरियरिस्ट बनाए, जो शिक्षा हमको केवल अपना जीवन स्तर ऊंचा उठाने के लिए बनाए, जो शिक्षा हमको समाज से काटे, प्रकृति से काटे, पर्यावरण से काटे, और केवल हमको आर्थिक उत्पादन और उपार्जन की क्षमता दे दे। यानी हम एम्पावरमेंट का अर्थ ये ले लें कि एजुकेशन जो हमको पैसा कमाने, उत्पादन करने, उपभोग की वस्तुएं जुटाने, इसके लिए तैयार करती है, वो शिक्षा है और ये एम्पावरमेंट है। अगर ऐसी हमारी कल्पना होगी तो वो शिक्षा पर्यावरण की रक्षा में कैसे मदद करेगी, ये एक सवाल खड़ा होता है। इसलिए हमको शिक्षा की प्रकृति, शिक्षा का स्वभाव, इसके बारे में भी विचार करना होगा। और यहाँ पर मुझको रविंद्रनाथ ठाकुर का स्मरण आता है। रविंद्रनाथ ठाकुर कहते थे कि प्रकृति बहुत बड़ी शिक्षिका है, नेचर से बड़ा कोई शिक्षक नहीं। रविंद्रनाथ ठाकुर ने ऐसा क्यों कहा? उनको लगा कि हम प्रकृति से बहुत सी बातें सीख सकते हैं। क्या सीख सकते हैं? जीवन शैली की बात हो रही है, लाइफस्टाइल की बात हो रही है। 2 प्रकार का लाइफस्टाइल होता है, एक होता है स्वार्थ पर आधारित और एक होता है परमार्थ पर आधारित। तो रविंद्रनाथ ठाकुर को लगा कि ये परमार्थ पर आधारित लाइफस्टाइल, ये तो मनुष्य क्लासरूम में नहीं सीखता है, ये तो बड़े क्लासरूम में सीखता है। और वह बड़ा क्लासरूम है नेचर, प्रकृति। कैसे सीखता है? क्योंकि वो देखता है कि प्रकृति तो देती है, लेती नहीं। अभी कुछ दिन पहले जब श्री कार्तिकेय जी मुझे इस कार्यक्रम के लिए बुलाने आए थे तो मैंने उनको एक दोहा सुनाया था। वो दोहा मैं आपको भी सुना देता हूँ। उस दोहे में 4 चीजों का वर्णन किया है। 3 तो प्रकृति से संबंधित है, नेचर से संबंधित है, और 1 मनुष्य से संबंधित है। वो जो 4 चीजें हैं उनमें एक तो है वृक्ष, तरुवर, एक है सरोवर, तालाब, पानी, जलाशय, नदियां, तीसरा है मेघ, बादल। ये 3 तो प्रकृति से जुड़ी हुई चीजें हो गई। और चौथा, इन तीनों के प्रभाव से बना हुआ मनुष्य, उसको कहा संत जन, संत। ये चारों क्या करते हैं? दोहा है तरवर, सरवर, संत जन, चौथे बरसे मेघ, परमारथ के कारणे चारों धारे दे। इसका अर्थ है तरवर, वृक्ष क्या करते हैं? लेते नहीं, देते हैं। परमार्थ, अपनी छाया क्या वृक्ष अपने ऊपर लेते हैं? दूसरों को छाया देते हैं। अपना फल स्वयं खाते हैं? नहीं, अपनी लकड़ी स्वयं के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं। हम मरते हैं तो हमारे दाह संस्कार के लिए लकड़ी भी पेड़ों से मिलती है, देते हैं वृक्ष। तरवर का काम है देना, प्रति वर्ष फल देते हैं, छाया देते हैं, पत्तियां, सब कुछ देना। सरवर, सरोवर, वो भी क्या करता है? तालाब, नदियां, जलाशय, स्वयं अपना पानी थोड़े पी जाते हैं, दूसरों को देते हैं। सूर्य के ताप से वाष्प बनकर ऊपर जाती है, फिर नीचे आ जाती है, धरती को सींचते हैं, देते हैं। सरोवर, संत जन। और संत प्रकृति के लोग। संत का मतलब है जिस जीवन शैली की यहाँ बात हो रही है कि ऐसी जीवन शैली पर्यावरण के लिए उपयुक्त हो सकती है, उस जीवन शैली को जो जीते हैं वो संत जन हो गए, जिनका लाइफस्टाइल ऐसा हो, पर्यावरण के अनुकूल हो, एनवायरनमेंट फ्रेंडली हो, उनको संत जन कहते हैं। और चौथे बरसे मेघ, और चौथी चीज जो आकाश से बादल बरसते हैं। बादल धरती को सींचते हैं, धरती नरम होती है, खेती होती है, कृषि होती है, हमारा जीवन चलता है। हमारे जीवन को चलाने में मेघों का भी योगदान है। परमार्थ के कारणे, परमार्थ के लिए, परमार्थ का मतलब है स्वार्थ नहीं, दूसरे का हित। परमार्थ के कारणे चारों धारे देह, ये चारों तरुवर, सरवर, संतजन और चौथे बरसे मेघ, ये चारों परमार्थ के लिए जीवन धारण करते हैं। और हम लोग तो पड़े हुए स्वार्थ के चक्कर में। तो फिर ये जीवन शैलियां अलग अलग हो गई। परमार्थ पर आधारित जीवन शैली के विकास के बिना क्या एनवायरनमेंट की रक्षा हो सकेगी, ये एक बुनियादी सवाल है। और इसमें हमारे देश की जो चिंतन परंपरा है, दर्शन परंपरा है, जो अपने में और पराये में फर्क ही नहीं करती, अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, जो मैं हूं वही आप हैं, सब कुछ उसमें आता है। ये जो रविंद्रनाथ ठाकुर ने कहा था कि शिक्षा पानी है, तो जो हमारे फॉर्मल एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं उनसे बाहर निकलकर शांति निकेतनी वातावरण में चले जाओ, जहां पर आप प्रकृति से जुड़ोगे तो देना सीखोगे, तो प्रकृति से प्रेम पैदा होगा। इसलिए हमको अपनी शिक्षा को भी नए सिरे से गढ़ना है, अगर हमको अपनी शिक्षा को पर्यावरण के अनुकूल बनाना है। हमारे यहाँ की परंपरा में प्रकृति की जितनी वस्तुएं हैं उनको हम देव मानते हैं, देव तुल्य मानते हैं। हमारे यहाँ पर सूर्य क्या कहते हैं? सूर्य देवता। ऐसा ही बोलते हैं ना। चंद्रमा चंद्र देवता, पृथ्वी पृथ्वी माता। इसलिए हमारे यहाँ कहा गया है कि सुबह उठकर जब आप जमीन पर पांव रखते हो तो 3 बार कहो, हे पृथ्वी माँ मुझे क्षमा करो, हे पृथ्वी माँ मुझे क्षमा करो, हे पृथ्वी माँ मुझे क्षमा करो। क्यों? सब कुछ तो पृथ्वी देती है। हमारा जीवन किस पर निर्भर है? खेती पर, कृषि पर। पृथ्वी से कृषि अन्न उत्पन्न होता है। आजकल की जो अर्थव्यवस्था है वो टिकी हुई है ऑयल पर। वो ऑयल कहाँ से निकलता है? कोयला कहाँ से निकलता है? पृथ्वी में से निकलता है। ये पृथ्वी देती है। इतनी मूल्यवान चीज है गोल्ड, सोना धरती में से निकलता है, लोहा धरती में से निकलता है। हमारा जीवन धरती से चलता है। तो इसीलिए हमारे यहाँ कहा गया सूर्य भी देवता, चंद्र भी देवता, पृथ्वी भी देवता, जल भी देवता, वनस्पति भी देवता। इन चीजों को देखने के प्रति हमारे मन में देव भाव जगे। प्रकृति की इन सब चीजों को हम देवता माने, ये देव भाव जगे। तो मैं आपसे एक प्रश्न करता हूं कि क्या हमारी मौजूदा शिक्षा पद्धति हमारे मन में इनके प्रति ये देव भाव जगाती है कि नहीं जगाती? और अगर हमारी मौजूदा शिक्षा पद्धति इनके प्रति देव भाव नहीं जगाती तो हमको अपनी शिक्षा पद्धति को कुछ नए सिरे से गढ़ने की, मोल्ड करने की जरूरत है। एक और बात, हमारे यहाँ पर 3 ऋणों की कल्पना की गई है। 3 ऋण। तो उनमें से एक ऋण है पितृ ऋण, एक है देव ऋण और एक है ऋषि ऋण। बस मैं अपनी बात और 2-4 मिनट में खत्म करता हूँ। एक है देव ऋण। अभी मैंने आपको बताया देवता कौन? देवता वो नहीं जो पत्थर की मूर्तियां गढ़ के हम मंदिर में रख लेते हैं, वो देवता नहीं। हम इस पेड़ की छाया में बैठे हैं, ये देवता है। प्रकृति देवता है। तो इनका कितना ऋण हम पर है सोचिए। सारी की सारी दुनिया की अर्थव्यवस्था जिन चीजों पर टिकी हुई है वो तो यही प्रकृति के देवता हैं, वो देते हैं, उन्हीं पर टिकी हुई है विश्व की अर्थव्यवस्था। इन देवताओं का हम पर कितना ऋण है? फिर दूसरा है पितृ ऋण। पितृ का मतलब है हमारी परंपरा। हमारी परंपरा में जो हमको अच्छी जीवन शैली सिखाती है, देने वाली जीवन शैली सिखाती है। हमारी परंपरा में क्या है? हमारी परंपरा में एक जैन परंपरा है। जैनी कहते हैं अपरिग्रह। अपरिग्रह का मतलब है इकट्ठा ही मत करो। अपरिग्रह का मतलब है नॉन एक्यूमुलेशन, इकट्ठा मत करो। और आज हम इकट्ठा करने में लगे हुए। फिर संचय मत करो। जब आवे संतोष धन, सब धन धूरी समान। संतोष धन आ गया तो बाकी सब धन बेकार है। कम से कम आवश्यकताओं में अपना जीवन जियो, ये हमारी परंपरा है। इसको, ये परंपरा हमको जो मिली है, इस परंपरा का भी हम पे ऋण है। इसको हम पितृ ऋण कह सकते हैं। पितृ ऋण यानी पिता, दादा, परदादा, उनके दादा परदादा, पुरानी परंपरा, उसका ऋण हम पर है। तीसरा है ऋषि ऋण। ऋषि किसे कहते हैं? जिसकी लंबी दाढ़ी हो, लंबे लंबे बाल हो, वो ऋषि नहीं। ऋषि का मतलब है जिसने जीवन में कोई कठोर साधना करके किसी सत्य का आविष्कार किया और वो सत्य उसने इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट की तरह से उसका पेटेंट नहीं करवा लिया कि ये तो मेरा है, इसका कोई दूसरा इस्तेमाल नहीं करेगा। दे दिया दूसरे, समाज को दे दिया। अभी क्या है, हम कोई आविष्कार कर लेते हैं तो ये मेरा आविष्कार है, इसको हम पेटेंट करवाने के चक्कर में पड़ जाते हैं। और ऋषि क्या है, वो कहता है कि भाई मैंने अपने जीवन में कठिन साधना करके किसी सत्य का आविष्कार किया, तो ये तो लोक हित के लिए किया है, मैंने अपने लिए थोड़ी किया है। लोक हित के लिए है वो दे देता है। आज हम जितने सुख के साधनों का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, आखिर को वो किसी ने तो खोजे हैं, और खोजे होंगे तो उसके लिए साधना की होगी ना, वो सब ऋषि होंगे। आए दिन कैंसर से लोग मरते हैं। जिस दिन कोई व्यक्ति कठोर साधना करके कैंसर का अंतिम उपचार खोज लेगा और वो लोग इसके लिए दे जाएगा, तो वो ऋषि से कम होगा क्या? वही तो ऋषि होगा। तो वो देते हैं। तो इनका कितना ऋण है? तो हमारे यहाँ पर कहा गया है कि हर मनुष्य को इन 3 ऋणों से मुक्त होना है। उसको देव ऋण से मुक्त होना है। देव ऋण का मतलब है पर्यावरण का ऋण। देव ऋण का मतलब है देवताओं का ऋण। देवताओं का ऋण यानी प्रकृति के देवताओं का ऋण, यानी पर्यावरण का, यानी एनवायरनमेंट का ऋण। कितना लेते एनवायरनमेंट से? देते ही नहीं, लेते रहते। इस ऋण से मुक्त होना। हमको अपनी परंपरा से जो कुछ मिला है उसमें कुछ जोड़ना है, उससे मुक्त होना है। और तीसरा ऋषि ऋण। जो भी कुछ हम शिक्षा से प्राप्त करें वो दे जाएं समाज को। ये 3 ऋणों की बात हमारे यहाँ पर कही गई। यहाँ पर महात्मा गांधी जी का जिक्र किया गया और हम अहमदाबाद में बैठे हैं, साबरमती नदी की छाया में बैठे हैं। गांधी जी कहते थे कि ईश्वर ने मनुष्य की आवश्यकताओं को पूरा करने के लिए खूब दिया है, लेकिन मनुष्य में जो लालच की प्रवृत्ति है उसको पूरा करने के लिए नहीं दिया। उसने हमारी नीड को सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए तो बहुत कुछ दिया है, लेकिन उसने हमारी ग्रीड को, लालच को सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए नहीं दिया। अब ये नीड मतलब मिनिमम नीड है। मिनिमम नीड वाली जीवन शैली अपनानी है या ग्रीड वाली जीवन शैली अपनानी है, ये 2 रास्ते हैं। इनमें से हम किसको चुनें? और जब हम ये बात करते हैं तो उसी में से एक बात और निकलती है, उसका जिक्र करके मैं अपनी बात समाप्त करूं, क्योंकि फिर आपको आगे अपनी कॉन्फ्रेंस में गहरी चर्चाएं भी करनी है। तो ये जो चर्चा मैंने की, इसी में से सवाल पैदा होता है कि हमारा डेवलपमेंट का मॉडल क्या होगा? क्या हम जिस डेवलपमेंट के मॉडल के पीछे दौड़ रहे हैं, ये डेवलपमेंट का मॉडल एनवायरनमेंट फ्रेंडली मॉडल है भी कि नहीं है? अगर ये एनवायरनमेंट फ्रेंडली मॉडल नहीं है तो शुड वी रिकंसिडर, गिव ए थॉट टू इट कि हमारे ये उत्पादन ओरिएंटेड मॉडल है, ये कंजम्पशन ओरिएंटेड मॉडल है, यह ग्रीड ओरिएंटेड मॉडल है। इस पर भी बहस होने की आवश्यकता है आपकी कॉन्फ्रेंस में कि हमारी डेवलपमेंट का मॉडल क्या हो। अगर डेवलपमेंट का मॉडल यही बना रहेगा तो जलवायु बिगड़ेगी, तापमान बिगड़ेगा, असंतुलन पैदा होगा, पेरिस की कॉन्फ्रेंसें होंगी, चिंता होगी, वगैरह वगैरह। इसलिए मेरा आपसे निवेदन है कि आप अपनी कॉन्फ्रेंस में 2 दिन 3 दिन बैठने वाले हैं, तो ये देखिए कि दुनिया में जो ऋषि जैसे लोग थे, वो किसी भी देश में हो सकते हैं। कोई भारत ने ही ऋषियों का ठेका लिया हो ऐसा नहीं, किसी भी देश में ऋषि तुल्य लोग हो सकते हैं, जिन्होंने ये बतलाया मनुष्य को कि भाई इन 2 रास्तों में से, स्वार्थ और परमार्थ के रास्ते में से तुम किसको चुनकर उसके हिसाब से अपनी जीवन शैली की रचना करोगे, इसका विचार करने की आवश्यकता है। और यहाँ पर महत्व का विषय आता है धर्म। धर्म पर आधारित जीवन शैली पर्यावरण के अनुकूल होगी। पर धर्म क्या है? धर्म का मतलब कोई रूढ़ी, कोई रिचुअल्स, कोई कर्मकांड, कोई मूर्ति पूजा, मंदिर में जाकर माथा रगड़ना, ये नहीं है। धर्म की बहुत सीधी सी परिभाषा है, जो सस्टेन करता है वो धर्म है। यहाँ सस्टेनेबल सब सस्टेनेबल शब्द बोल रहे थे। ये सस्टेनेबल शब्द सस्टेन पर आधारित है, और धर्म का तो अर्थ ही है जो सस्टेन करे वो धर्म, जो सस्टेन करे वो धर्म, जो हमको धारण करता है वही धर्म होता है। और जो हमको धारण करता है धर्म, वो हमें कहता है कि आप अपनी चिंता मत करो, दूसरे की चिंता करो। संवेदना धर्म में से पैदा होती है। ये संवेदना, अब मैं एक बात कह के अपनी बात खत्म करता हूं कि पर्यावरण की रक्षा के लिए मनुष्य के हृदय में संवेदना तो चाहिए ना। आखिर को संवेदना के बिना हम कितनी ही बड़ी बड़ी कॉन्फ्रेंसेस कर लें, अगर हृदय में संवेदना नहीं जगी तो हम कैसे पेड़ की रक्षा करेंगे? कालिदास का एक नाटक है, बड़ा प्रसिद्ध नाटक, अभिज्ञान शाकुंतलम। अभिज्ञान शाकुंतलम में जब शकुंतला कण्व ऋषि के आश्रम से शकुंतला विदा होती है, तो आपको मालूम है कि कौन रोते हैं? लताएं, बेर, जो हिरण मृग पाले हुए थे शकुंतला ने, वो पेड़ पर बैठे हुए पक्षी, ये सब रोते हैं। क्यों रोते हैं? इसलिए रोते हैं कि शकुंतला इनका पोषण करती थी, इनको सस्टेन करती थी। लताओं को, बेलों को, पक्षियों को, मृग को, हिरण को, प्रकृति को, एनवायरनमेंट को, इसको कण्व ऋषि के आश्रम में शकुंतला पोषण करती थी। इसलिए जब शकुंतला विदा होती है कण्व ऋषि के आश्रम से, तो कालिदास ने बतलाया है कि ये रोते थे। और हम अगर इनका शोषण करें, पोषण ना करें, इनका शोषण करें, तो फिर ये क्यों रोएंगे हमारे लिए? फिर तो जलवायु में उष्णता बढ़ती है, तो बड़े हमारा विनाश होता है। तो वो इसलिए हमको प्रकृति को अपनी शिक्षिका मानकर, अपनी शिक्षण व्यवस्था में, अपने एजुकेशनल सिस्टम में प्रकृति से शिक्षा प्राप्त होने के एलिमेंट को डालने की आवश्यकता है, जो हमको रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर बतलाते हैं। अभिज्ञान शाकुंतलम हमको ये बतलाता है कि शकुंतला ने प्रकृति को सस्टेन किया, इसलिए जब शकुंतला जाती है तो प्रकृति रोती है। हमको ये प्रयास करना चाहिए। ये जीवन दृष्टि हमको भारत की चिंतन परंपरा देती है। इसको हम आज नई टेक्नोलॉजी, आधुनिक टेक्नोलॉजी, विज्ञान, इसके साथ कैसे एडजस्ट कर सकते हैं, इस सब का विचार आप इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में करेंगे। बहुत महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर, बहुत प्रासंगिक विषय पर आपकी कॉन्फ्रेंस होने जा रही है। इसमें दुनिया के अलग अलग देशों के प्रतिनिधि आए हुए हैं। मैं ऐसा विश्वास रखता हूँ कि इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में से बहुत मूल्यवान विचार उदय होंगे, जो मानव कल्याण का रास्ता प्रशस्त करेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
I would now like to request Mr. Karthikeya Sarabhai to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Governor Shri. What we will do is to have the entire talk available on the website in English, so you will be able to all understand some very important thoughts which he shared with us today. But I will still just mention a few of them because they are very key to the thought processes which we are putting in. He spoke about the whole issue of lifestyle, and a lifestyle which only talks about taking and not giving is really at the heart of this thing. He used the word nichod. Nichod literally means like you squeeze something out, you squeeze the last drop of water out of something. We sometimes relate to nature like that. How do we just take from nature? And linked it to thoughts from this country where humans were never seen as outside of the environment, but were seen essentially as a part of that environment. It was never us and the environment. The environment was not something outside this. The whole concept of, as he said, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, is that the whole of all forms of life are part of my family. Not just my immediate family, not just my biological family or something else, but the larger family. And the respect which you have towards nature, towards rivers, to lakes, to mountains, that respect, how do you cultivate these values? And he was sort of emphasizing throughout his talk the issue of values. He quoted that what is the use of education which alienates us from the environment and gives us only skills for economic growth? Is that true education? Quoting Rabindranath Tagore, he said how Tagore was talking about the whole concept of education which makes you want, the swarth versus paramarth, which sort of takes you into a larger thing, and how nature is the larger classroom. Sir, I hope you will appreciate that this is not being held away from nature. This conference is held right in nature and follows the principles you say. We have no lights. Usually you sit in a ballroom with lights and air conditioning. We have neither of those. And this is a way to learn. Our studio has put a few of their companions who are going to go away to some national park into interpretation, but let us get inspired the way you have talked about. He said some beautiful couplets, and again we will put them on. These are couplets which are there, and I had the benefit of listening to them when we had gone to invite the governor. But just one of them, that just look at the tree or the water or the rain. They selflessly give. They do not. A lake does not have water for itself, or a tree doesn't give shade for itself. It gives it for others. And the fourth one there, something which I didn't know, is the Santajan, the person. I don't know how one exactly translates. Saintly, the saint. And then he says that the saint is not someone who has a long beard and looks like a thing. That's not the saint. The saint is all those whose lifestyles are compatible with nature. All those are the saints. The saints are not only someone, and they're from all over the world. India does not have a monopoly on saints. But what is a true saint? And a saint is, in today's context, someone who lives. He seriously questioned the formal education system as it exists today, and whether we really do this. Do we learn from nature? And when we say learn from nature, it's not about nature, but about the values that nature. When you learn about the tree, do we know that the tree is that which gives without asking? So we are not talking about the botany of the tree alone, but we are talking about the value which nature brings in. He says that in many of our traditions, when we get up in the morning and we put our foot on the floor, we ask for forgiveness that we are going to tread. So the whole concept of the footprint is that concept. And we are in this conference certainly going to discuss this and how each child and each person learns about development, which is not just production and consumption oriented, not just greed oriented. And in this land of Gandhi, a quote which he mentioned is also behind everyone's the book here, that Earth provides enough to satisfy everyone's need, but not for anyone's greed. And it's here as well. And this is a quote which Gandhi used, but it comes from that whole parampara. It comes from thoughts which have been there forever. And he finally said how, what is religion? The religion is that which sustains. And you cannot have a concept of religion which is just ritual, or religion which is this. The temples are just ways in which you might direct you there, but religion in itself leads to compassion and leads to developing that relationship with nature. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that wonderful speech, and we will put it up so that all of you can get the full message. Let me just thank here the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, of whom we are a Center of Excellence, for the faith in education which the ministry put right from its inception, that education was one of the pillars of the ministry and continues to be, sir. We have just launched with the ministry a train called the Science Express Climate Change Special, Climate Action Special. And I would think that it is perhaps one of the biggest commitments to climate change education which any nation has done anywhere. It's a train which is, I think my colleagues will tell me the figure, but I saw a figure 2 days ago. It had cost 100,000 people who had 1 million people, 1 million people who had seen it. And over these different phases, about 13.5 million people have seen it. It's a huge commitment to seeing that we rethink, and I think we thank the ministry, we thank UNESCO and UNEP, who've been continuous and constant partners with us, but we thank also the many other partners. We thank UNDP, Jeff, Small Grants Program, we thank UNDP, we thank the British Council, we thank UNFCCC, and you see, I'm not going to say all these names, Niti Aayog, but over these next few days, many of these will and we thank each one of them, as we thank all the people who have supported this. We finally must say that there is something here where we do conferences, that all the langurs who are here, they keep away from bouncing off these, the langur monkeys, for the next 2 days, and we will thank them also for letting us be and letting us use their space. So thank you very much. We are all invited to tea, and before that we are doing the national anthem. You want to say who's doing it?
Please stand for the national anthem.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे
We break for tea now. Please wait till the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. She has extensive experience in working with the UN system, government agencies, non-governmental organizations and youth organizations on education, training and public awareness initiatives, in particular relating to education for sustainable development. She was the lead negotiator at the Climate Change Conference on issues related to education and served as chair of G77. Mr. Prasad Menon is the chairman of the Tata Projects Limited. He is also chairman of Tata Singapore Airlines Limited and Tata Consulting Engineers Limited. Serves on the board of several other Tata companies, including Tata Industries, Tata Chemicals, and TRF Limited. He has over 40 years of experience working in some of the world's leading companies in chemical and power sectors. Professor Mohan Menon, Professor Dr. Menon is Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic at the Wasawan Open University, Malaysia. He has extensive experience in teaching, research, and implementing innovations related to teaching learning systems and open education, in addition to administrative experience during his long career as a research fellow and lecturer at the Center of Advanced Study in Education, MS University of Baroda. Planning Officer and Professor Director, Education in IGNOU, Chairman NIOS, Education Specialist and Team Leader in the Commonwealth of Learning. Varun Zaveri is currently appointed as UNESCO Youth Representative for the GAMAG division. He has been associated with the work of education, gender rights and media literacy since 4 years as an active youth advocate. He is also the International Steering Committee member of UNESCO Asia Pacific chapter of GAMAG. I would like to hand over the chair to Shri Sushil Kumar, Special Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change.
As follows. See, we have 8 people on the panel, so each one will have 7 minutes each. And then we have about 20 minutes for open discussion at the end. So that's what I would request my panelists to please cooperate with me. And somebody is keeping the time? Okay. So please remind when the 7 minutes are over. What I also wish to do is to change the sequence. And then see how it goes. So let me first ask and request Mr. Mahesh Pradhan to give his views on role of environmental education for sustainable development goals.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope all of you have been inspired by the words this morning, I think, which was very impressive at the opening. And also not just the words, but also the campus, the biodiversity, as Kartikeya mentioned. This morning I saw a peacock, I saw a monkey, langur, and a couple of other things. So it's very impressive to be back at a conference on nature, relating to nature for SDGs. Yeah, I'd just like to start off in terms of highlighting the role of environmental education for the SDGs, in the sense that we've moved from the MDGs 2000 to 2015, now to SDGs 2015 to 2030. There's been a huge change in the last 15 years, and I think this change is going on even faster. Yeah, one thing I was just reading about, and which is now coming up, is this whole issue of this new era, the so-called Anthropocene, where I think human civilization started way back, I think, with 570 million years ago, with the Paleozoic era, but now the current discussions, and I think this is with the International Commission on Stratigraphy, which is now going to debate a whole new era. The last one, which is ongoing, is this Holocene, which has been going on for 11,700 years. But now, perhaps, they're going to discuss the start of a new era, which is caused by humans, the Anthropocene, which is affecting our planet. Just a few statistics. Concrete. More than half of concrete, all the concrete produced, was in the past 20 years alone. If you're looking at plastic, 300 million metric tons of plastic annually. So now plastics or microplastics is in virtually everywhere. Yeah? Oceans, waterways, so on and so forth. If you're looking at the land, even smaller area of Earth, Now we have about 25% of ice-free land. And just, I think 3 centuries ago, this was 50%. So we reduced this. And this is leading to species decline. If you're looking at nitrogen and phosphorus, so in our soils, it's been doubled. I think the largest nitrogen impact in the past 2.5 billion years. Like that, then the list goes on, black carbon, so on and so forth. But in this backdrop and this urgency, this whole SDG process and drawing on the 8 MDGs, this time has been negotiated. And as you heard from our Special Secretary, a long negotiated process that resulted in the 17 goals and 169 targets, where I think the common or one of the most important factors that are different from the MDGs is this whole issue of universality. It applies to everyone, not just the developing countries. So these 17 goals to everyone, but of course with the CBDR, the Common but Differentiated Responsibilities principle. The second thing is, with the 17, the integrated approach. Because earlier in the MDGs, we had social, very strong, the economics, and environment perhaps not as strong. So this time, with the 17, a more integrated approach. And at the same time, this gives us a vision for the next 15 years with an aspirational vision. So with UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme, we're supporting the environmental dimension of the SDGs. Yeah? But with the SDGs, and especially Goal 4, which is on education, where we've looked at the issues whereby education can make a difference for the SDGs. And here this morning, we already heard, I think, a lot of the key factors, values. This is something that education has a very deep impact from a small child to all of life. The values, the behavior, and the ethics of this lifestyle. And including, I think, on the lifestyle, which Kartikeya summarized from our honorary governor, where he especially mentioned this consumption, the greed lifestyles has to change. And in fact, we at UNEP, we have a program on the 10-year framework program, which is looking at education for sustainable lifestyles. We also have an opportunity now to build on this whole decade of education for sustainable development, the past 10 years, 2005 to end of 14, and the new Global Action Program. But this morning, I just wanted to share just an example before I end my 7 minutes, to look at one of our key flagships within UNEP, where we're looking at engaging with higher education. So UNEP has been involved in a lot of scientific assessments. We have the IPCC we're working with. We have a brand new IPBES, not brand new anymore, the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. And in fact, Dr. Ashok Khosla chairs the International Resource Panel, IRP. So with that, we have the Global Universities Partnership, now about approaching 800 universities, looking at education and here curriculum. So with Professor Hela, we've been working on mainstreaming environmental education across the curriculum. We're looking at MOOCs, these massive open online courses, again, huge reach, but a lot of challenges in terms of finishing, so on and so forth. We have a couple of them lined up. We're working on training programs for policymakers, and this is with different universities from Finland to Tongji in China. And last but not least, we're networking all these universities together. So yesterday we had a very interesting session. We had more than 50 participants trying to get something in India also, looking at a national network, and especially since India has a Supreme Court ruling for compulsory environmental education at all the levels. So we want to benefit from that. And in fact, later this year, MIT will host our GUPAS Partnerships Forum in Boston, where we're hoping that many of you can also join us. So in conclusion, just to mention, I think we're at a critical phase. The Anthropocene is on us. It is being debated at the highest scientific levels. We have a brand new opportunity with the SDGs for the next 15 years. The power of education has never been stronger in terms of behavior change, in terms of value, in terms of ethics, the skills, knowledge for green jobs, so on and so forth. And then there's a lot of opportunity, and this is where UNEP is focusing on higher education to look at promoting education for sustainable development, environmental education, and the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.